Hello everyone and welcome! All the stories from the desert we have talked about are getting entangled, and they are reaching one final destination. Today we are going to give all of these stories purpose, as we once again talk about the heroes of Shurima. The story we are going to talk about takes place after the events of the Bird and the Branch, but before the events of Talia's initial story. So once again, I advise you to read both the stories before you proceed to watch this video. After a long travel, Talia finally left the lands of Freljord and arrived at Belzoon, a settlement between Shurima and Noxus. Because the Noxian warships brought back bad memories, Talia bought all the supplies she needed and prepared to leave as soon as she could. She didn't want to venture into the desert on her own, so she joined a heavily armed caravan of silk merchants. They were heading south to a city called Kennethet, and from there Talia followed the river called Mother of Life that led her to Vakura. She was told that Vakura was nothing more than a ruined city buried beneath the sands. But even from miles away, she saw that the city was also reborn. She was hoping for a quick stop, but those plans were swept away when she found the dying woman. The city was full of life, hundreds of people selling and buying supplies. Talia now among them. She couldn't believe how everyone stood united. She saw tribes that were sworn enemies that now walked side by side like brothers in arms. A lot's changed since I've been gone, she whispered to herself. She had what she had come for, and she needed to get back to the ruined building on the eastern edge of the city. She was carrying a bag over her shoulder, filled with food, cured meats, oats, bread and cheese, along with 2 skins of water. More than she would need, but it wasn't all for her. On her hasty way back into the building, she accidentally ran into a big man. She bounced off of his unmoving body and landed flat on her backside. The enormous man was dressed from head to foot in robes. He was holding a long staff wrapped in cloth. Perhaps he needed it because she saw that his legs were strangely angled. "Excuse me," she said, looking up. "I didn't see you." He looked down at her, his face hidden in the shadow, but he didn't answer. He held out his hand and lifted Talia back on her feet. "Thank you," said Talia. "You should watch your step, little one," he said with a deep and resonant voice. "Shurima is a dangerous place now." He watched Talia run off through the crowds, and he turned back to the cracked walls of Vakura. The massive stones only reached his head, so he still had a clear view around him. The man was drawn to the city by the scent of the ascended bloodline. He felt it somewhere inside the city, and he knew that the Magus would be drawn to this place as well. Finding the person he was looking for was crucial. He had to find him before his enemy. Otherwise, it could bring doom to the reborn Shurima. On his way past the gates and into the city, he stopped by a merchant selling water. Until this point, no one was able to recognize the man, but this merchant did. "You're the lost son of the desert. You're Nasus." "I am, but there is another far more lost than I." Nasus followed the crowd moving through the city toward the temple at its heart. His size alone would attract attention, but the water vendor would by now have spread his identity far and wide. Nasus noticed all the similarities. The whole city was built in the image of Shurima's capital. He finally arrived at the Sun Temple, built of sandstone and rock, raised by human hands to human scale. It was a child's recreation of the titanic structure that sat at the heart of the Shuriman Empire. They even remade the sun disk, although this one was made of bronze and copper, and was hanging in the air with the help of ropes. Part of Nasus wanted to rage against these people, to hate them for building this ugly remembrance of the empire he and countless others fought for. But they did not know what he knew, had not seen what he had seen, and he could not make them understand. A hierophant in feathered robe stood before the disc. Perhaps he was the one he was looking for. Two warriors armored in stripes of bronze and feathered helms molded to represent beasts guarded the stairs to the temple. They turned at the sight of him. Nasus fluttered as he recognized who their helms were intended to represent. One looked like a crocodile, the other like a jackal. They leveled their spears as he approached, but Nasus saw the fear in their eyes as he dropped the robes to reveal the golden armor beneath. He reached up to tear the cloth from his staff, revealing his war axe. "Stand aside," he said. The guards quivered in fear, but stood their ground. Nasus sighed and spun his axe in a looping arc. The end caught the first guard and hurled him back 30 yards. The other one withered into dust as Nasus began to climb up the stairs. After few steps, he got a clear view of the entire city. The sight saddened him, as what used to be an oasis full of life and water was now surrounded by endless dunes of sand. Other guards were now moving to the top of the temple, shouting in a language that had none of the beauty and complexity of the ancient Shuriman. 10 warriors were now standing between him and the Hierophant. The priest's clothing represented a bird, wing-like sleeves and a hood with a beak, just like Azir. "You are Nasus?" said the Hierophant. "That you have to ask tells me that I've been away for too long. Yes, I am Nasus, but more importantly, who are you?" "I am Azrahir Telamul, scion of the Hawk Emperor, first voice of Vakura, the Illuminated One, he who walks in the light and keeper of the sacred fire, bringer of the dawn and scion of the Hawk Emperor," interrupted Nasus. "You claim lineage from Emperor Azir." "I do not claim it, it is who I am," answered the Hierophant. "Now tell me, what do you want?" Nasus nodded and spun his axe, holding it in both hands horizontal to the ground. "Your blood," said Nasus. He slammed the butt of his axe against the ground, and a cloud of sand started swirling around the priest. "What are you doing?" demanded the priest. "I told you, I need to see your blood." The warriors shielded their eyes from the sandstorm Nasus created. The dust blinded the Hierophant and started choking him. Nasus attacked the warriors without warning, sweeping them aside 3 at a time until only he and the Chosen One remained. The man was laying on the ground in a ball at the eye of the miniature sandstorm. His bloodied hands were protecting his face. Nasus reached down and lifted him up by the neck. The Hierophant's skin was red raw from the raging sand, and tears of blood ran down his cheeks. Nasus moved closer to the sun disk. It wasn't the real thing, wasn't even gold, but it reflected the light of the sun, and that would be good enough. "You say you are the line of Azir?" he said. "Now we will see if that is true." He pressed the Hierophant's face against the sun disk, and the man screamed as the scorching metal burned his exposed skin. Nasus dropped the whimpering man and stared at the hissing blood running down the disk. The blood was already drying out to brown crust, and the scent of it filled his nostrils. "Your blood is not that of the Ascended Bloodline," said Nasus sadly. "You are not who I seek." He narrowed his eyes as he saw a radiant blue glow reflected on the surface of the disk from something in the far distance. He turned around and looked to the horizon. A cloud gathered there, dust kicked up by the feet of marching men. He heard the beating of war drums and the sound of battle horns. Massive beasts emerged from the dust, covered in plate armor. Behind the war beasts, at least 500 assassins, warriors and archers moved as one. Nasus felt the presence of ancient magic approaching, the being of crackling energy and dark power he was so familiar with. Zerath was on his way into Vakura. After some time, Talia finally arrived at the house she was looking for. It was a ruined building without much of a roof, but it still gave her a cool shadow. She dropped all the supplies on the ground and knelt next to the injured woman she found in the desert. It seemed like the woman was cut by a blade. She had a wound at the side of her body that Talia was able to stitch together. Talia replaced the bandage on the wound and her patient grunted in pain. "You're a fighter," Talia said. "I can tell that about you, so fight for your life." Talia had no idea if the woman heard what she said, but it felt good to talk to someone, even if they didn't answer. "Well, I don't think there's a lot I can do until you wake up," Talia said. Suddenly, a massive booming sound echoed through the city. At first, she thought it was an earthquake, but to her it sounded more like an avalanche. "What's going on? Where am I?" Talia turned at the sound of the woman's voice. "You're in Vakura," said Talia. "I found you outside, bleeding and half dead." "Where's my blade?" demanded the woman. Talia pointed to the wall behind her. "Over there. The blades are very sharp and I didn't want it anywhere I might trip over and slice my foot." "Who are you?" said the woman. "I'm Talia." "Do I know you? Does your tribe want me dead?" "No, I don't think so. We're herders, weavers and travelers. We don't really want anyone dead." "Then you're one of the few who don't," said the woman. "Why would anyone want you dead?" asked Talia. "Because I've killed a lot of people," she replied. "Sometimes because I was paid to, sometimes because they were in my way. But these days it's usually because they got very angry when I tell them that I'm not going back." "Back where?" "The city," she said. "The one that rose from the sands." "So it's true?" asked Talia. "Ancient Shurima is really reborn? You've seen it?" "With my very own eyes," said the woman. "There's a lot of people going there now. I saw tribes of the east and south mostly, but others will come soon enough." "People are going there?" "More every day." "So why don't you want to go back?" "You're tiring me out with all of those questions." Talia shrugged. "Asking is the first step on the journey to understanding." The woman smiled and nodded. "Good point, but be careful who you ask. Some people answer questions with blade." "Do you?" "Sometimes, but since you've saved my life, I'll let it go." "Then tell me one more thing." "What?" "Your name." "Civer," said the woman through her pain. The sound of the falling rocks became louder now. Civer jumped to her feet to see what was going on. "You're in no state to go anywhere," said Talia. "Can you hear that?" said Civer. "Of course. It sounds a lot like people screaming." Civer nodded. "That's exactly what it is." Outside, fire was raining from the sky. Comets of white-blue flame leapt from Zerath's arms. It burned the bodies of the citizens out in the streets, and chaos rose within the city. Nasus saw the walls of Vakura being smashed aside by the war beasts. Warriors streamed into the city and slaughtered everyone without mercy. More fireballs slammed down like thunderbolts, and the air filled with screams and the smell of burnt flesh. People looked at Nasus, shouted his name and begged for help. He ignored them, knowing he served a higher calling. But even so, familiar guilt filled his soul at the sight of the terror he could prevent. He walked past everyone and into the ruined house. Inside, a young woman emerged from the doorway, wearing a coat from a land across the ocean. The same girl that he had spoken to earlier. She was waving her hands in the air as if she was casting a spell. Behind her, Nasus saw a woman struggling to stand, using the peeling walls for support. Her tunic was soaked red, a grievous wound, but not yet a mortal one. "I am Nasus, curator of the sands," he said, but from the look in her eyes, she already knew who she was. "Stand aside, girl." "No, I won't let you hurt her. I made a promise." Nasus spun his axe, slinging it across his back as he took a step forward. Talia took a step back and ripped a rock from the ground. "You have the power to break the rock of Shurima," said Nasus. "Yes, so you'd better back off before I break you." Nasus grinned. "You possess a hero's heart, girl, but you are not the one I seek. Your magic is strong, so if I were you, I would leave this city before Zerath rips it from you. I am not going anywhere. I promised I would protect Civer, and the Great Weaver hates a broken promise. If you are her protector, then no, I am not here to hurt her. So what do you want? I am here to save her." Civer stood up and walked next to Talia. A moment of silence sank in. "Who's this Zerath?" she asked. "A dark magus who already knows too much of your existence." The woman nodded and turned to Talia, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I owe you my life, but I won't be in anyone's debt," she said. "So consider your promise fulfilled. I can take it from here." "I appreciate that, but you can barely walk," Talia said. "At least let me help you out of the city." "Deal," said Civer gratefully, before turning back to Nasus. "I've had enough of people saving me lately," she said. "They always want something in return. So tell me, big man, what do you really want?" "To keep you alive," said Nasus. "I can do that without your help. That wound in your side tells me otherwise. You are..." "This?" said Civer before he could finish. "Just a disagreement with some fools who wouldn't take no for an answer. Trust me, I've had worse and I walked away. I don't need protecting. Fate seems to be looking out for me these days, no matter what I do. The future is not set in stone," he said. "It is a branching river whose course can change in any moment. Even those whose fate is written in the stars can find the water of their lives run to barren ground, if they are not careful." Then he gestured to Civer's weapon. "Do you know to whom that blade once belonged?" "What does it matter?" said Civer. "It's mine now." "It is the Chalikar, the blade once borne by Setaka, foremost warrior queen of the ancient host, when enough of us remained for that name to mean something. I was honored to fight at Setaka's side for 3 centuries. Her deeds were legendary, but I can see that you don't know her name." "The fallen are forgotten," said Civer with a shrug. "A desert stylite once told her that she would see the sun rise on the day a Shuriman emperor ruled the entire world. It made her think that she was invincible, for we were yet to conquer the world. But she was brought down by monsters on the eve of Ikathia's doom. I held her as her light dimmed and I sent her to her slumber far below the sands with her weapon upon her breast. If you're here to take it back, then you and I might have a problem. You are the ascended bloodline. The weapon is yours to bear, for the blood of emperors runs in your veins. It resurrected Azir and Shurima, so that has to mean something." "No it doesn't," snapped Civer. "I never asked Azir to bring me back. I don't owe him anything. I don't want anything to do with you or this Zerath." "Your wants are irrelevant," said Nasus. "Zerath will kill you whether you embrace your destiny or not. He has come here to end the bloodline of Azir once and for all." "What does Azir want with her?" asked Talia. "And what is he going to do now that he's back? Does he want to make us slaves?" "She asks a lot of questions," said Civer. Nasus hesitated before answering. In truth, I do not know what Azir plans. That he will stand against Zerath is enough for me. Now you can both meekly bare your necks, or you can live to fight another day. I have never done anything meekly in all my days, but I don't plan to be fighting anything more threatening than sleep for a while. You must live, said Nasus, rising to his full height. And you need to be ready. Ready for what? Said Civer. The battle for Shurima, said Nasus. So for now we must run. Zerath's warriors are killing everyone in Vakura. What's so special about this place? Asked Talia. They are looking for her, said Nasus. Nasus, eh? I've heard stories about you since I was a child. Stories of war and heroic battles. All the legends say that you and your brother were Shurima's protectors, yes? That is true, said Nasus. Renekton and I fought for Shurima over many centuries. Civer took a halting step toward him, her face as set with determination as Azir's. Then fight for Shurima now, said Civer, as imperious as any emperor. Sons and daughters of the desert are dying out there as we speak. If you're the hero I've heard about all my life, then it's your duty to get out there and save as many people as possible. That speech awoke something sleeping within Nasus. Only now did he realize how lost he truly was. You have my oath, it will be so, Nasus said, reaching up to unhook a pendant hanging around his neck. If you go now, I shall do all I can to protect Vakura's people. The stone of his pendant was jade, a faint light glue from within, pulsing like a slowly beating heart. He offered it to Civer. Wear this and it will keep you from Zerath's sight. It will not last forever, but maybe long enough. Long enough for what? Asked Civer. For me to find you again, said Nasus, turning away. He left Civer and Talia before he could change his mind, knowing their best chance of survival was to draw Zerath's warriors to him. Nasus saw a group of 5 warriors blocking the exit from the plaza. They rushed him with bloodied swords and spears. Nasus met their charge head on, swinging low and splitting 3 of them in half with a single sweep of his blade. He put his fist through the chest of another and locked his jaw on the bare head of the last man. Nasus bit down and the warrior's skull burst open. He entered the plaza, seeing what remained of the city's inhabitants. They were forced to kneel with swords pointing at their backs. The sparkling body of Zerath was suspended in the air in front of them. Next to him, a hierophant was being burned alive. You mortals are fools, said Zerath. Why would you claim lineage from an emperor as worthless as Azir? Zerath! Shouted Nasus, his voice echoing around the plaza. Everyone in the plaza turned around, but no one attacked. A silence spread through the entire city, as if it was empty. Of course it would be you, said Zerath. Who else but the coward who sealed me beneath the world for millennia? I will put you back there, promised Nasus. You had your beloved brother to help you then. Tell me, have you seen Renekton since our shared prison was broken open? Do not speak his name, snarled Nasus. Have you seen what he has become? Nasus said nothing, and Zerath laughed, the sound like wearing fire spirits. Of course you haven't, Zerath continued. He would have killed you on sight. The power within you was meant for Azir, said Nasus, taking slow steps toward Zerath. You were not chosen by the sun. Neither was Renekton, and he was raised up. Do not say his name, said Nasus through gritted fangs. Your brother was weak, but you knew that already, didn't you? Said Zerath, drifting closer. He broke more easily than I could have imagined. All it took was telling him how you abandoned him to the darkness, how you trapped him with his enemy and left him to die. At this point, they were facing each other in the center of the city, two ascended beings out of time, a warrior king and a magus of living magic. Nasus attacked first. With blinding speed, he leapt into the air and brought his axe down in an arc. It came in contact with Zerath and it hurled him back into the walls of the temple. The magus hurled himself forward, searing beams of energy blazing from his limbs. It burned Nasus as they slammed together with ferocious power. A shockwave of magical energy exploded outward, blowing people away like leaves. Flames erupted as Zerath called arcane power from the heart of his being and unleashed it indiscriminately. Nasus rolled aside as a series of glittering comets slammed down. He rose to his feet in time to use his spinning axe blade to deflect a series of screeching orbs of white flame. Zerath floated above him, laughing as lightning started spinning around him. Nasus unleashed a burst of withering power that weakened Zerath before he leapt toward him. They grappled in midair to smash into the Sun Temple once again. This time the structure cracked. The building was now in horrible state. Even the sun disk fell down from the ropes, and as it hit the ground, it shattered into small pieces. One of the shards flew out and impaled Nasus's leg. He pulled it out and blood started streaming down. While he was distracted, Zerath unleashed another wave of crackling lightning, this time striking his heart. The pain forced Nasus to his knees, consuming all energy he had left. Exhausted and at his limits, Nasus could not resist Zerath's power anymore. He lifted his head as the city burned around them. The one you seek is not here and is now hidden beyond your sight. The last of Azir's blood cannot hide from me forever, said Zerath. I will find them and end that worthless bloodline. Nasus held his axe out, deflecting more lightning. I will die before I allow that to happen. As you wish, said Zerath. Zerath drifted toward him. I told your brother over and over again of your betrayal and the jealousy you kept hidden from him. He cursed your name and wept as he told me how he would rend you limb from limb. Nasus roared and surged to his feet. A volcanic pillar of fire erupted beneath Zerath, and the magus bellowed as the shimmering fire of many suns engulfed him. Zerath shrugged off this last desperate attempt, and Nasus had nothing left to give. His magic lifted Nasus and swung him around, hurling him into the crumbling ruins of the temple. Stonework shattered around him, and he felt his sun-fused bones snap like tinderwood. His legs broken and twisted beneath him. His left arm hung useless at his side, shattered from shoulder to wrist. He tried to push himself upright with his good arm, but pain surged up his spine where his back had broken. His body could heal those wounds in time, but he had no time left. How far have you fallen, Nasus? I would pity you if I didn't hate you for what you did to me. Your spirit has broken in the long years you wandered alone and burdened. Better be broken and burdened than an oathbreaker, coughed Nasus through mouthful of blood. Even with your newfound power, you are still a betrayer and a slave. I am no slave, said Zerath. Azir's last act was to free me. Of course Nasus didn't know that. He was gone at the time Azir freed everyone. Then why all this? Why betray Azir? Azir was a fool, and his gift was offered too late, said Zerath. Nasus grunted in pain as his bones started snapping back together. What will you do when I'm dead? Said Nasus. What will become of Shurima with you as its emperor? Do you think I cannot see your body renewing itself? Zerath said. Then come down and fight me, cried Nasus. I have pictured your death 1,000 times, answered Zerath, rising beyond the hollowed temple. but never by my hand. Nasus watched the Magus rise as the unsupported walls of the temple groaned and cracked, leaning in and ready to fall. "The Butcher of the Sands will have his due," said Zerath, his form blazing brighter than the sun disk ever had. "And I will be there to watch him claw the meat from your bones. But until then, I entomb you beneath the sands as you once trapped me." The final lightning struck the walls of the temple and the entire structure fell on Nasus, entombing him beneath tons of collapsed stone. The time passed and Nasus finally woke up. He saw a small pillar of light coming down from the never-ending darkness around him. He didn't know how long he was unconscious, but his bones and body were healed, so it was far too long either way. He noticed that he was locked in a perfectly shaped globe of rock, smooth as glass on the inside. The light coming from the small crack in it was his way out, so he decided to punch the crack repeatedly until he saw the sun once again. After a close inspection, he realized that the globe wasn't made by a slave, it was a work of a weaver. As he looked around, he saw more survivors emerging from beneath those smooth rock shelters. "Shurima thanks you, Talia," said Nasus. Just as it has risen from the sands claimed Vakura once again. Nasus's mission was successful. The bloodline of Azir endured, but now he knows Renekton is after him, so he has to prepare for a much more difficult battle to come. And that is the long story called Bloodline. This was a very lengthy story and I don't think we are done yet. The war for Shurima is still about to come, so I think there will be one more event before Riot wraps this story up. But for now, thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed it, you know exactly what to do. If you care about me, you probably already follow me on my social media. Maybe on Twitch too for some free fun. But other than that, thank you all so much for your support in what I do. And as always, thank you come again. So this is another one of those stories that I thought would be much shorter, but it actually ended up pretty long. I actually thought that I would split this story into 2 parts, but in the end I was like, I can do this in one. So I got a nice 30 minutes, which is a healthy length for a video, I guess. We still have the 3 citizens of Shurima, the Skarner, Rammus, and one more that I can't recall. I'm really trying. Who's the last one? I don't know, I can't really look it up now, so but yeah, the 3rd one. So I'll make a video on these after I'm done with, well, I guess I'm done with everything. There's one more video that I want to release probably on Friday, and after that I'll get into more Shurima, which is going to be next Monday then. So with all of that, thank you and come again, see you in the next one.